Hello and welcome back to the last session of today. And here we have a great magician of ours, Denis. And a couple words about him. So he started his career in university, got a diploma, then very wisely went for the support, learned all the issues and how to solve them, and was quickly promoted to the DevOps team, right? And from there, the sky is the limit for him. And he worked on the cost saving through his career. And right now, he will be talking to you about cloud cost managing and all the tricks, tips and tricks, how he can advise you to do similar things. So, Dennis, floor is yours.
So hey guys, my name is Denis, and I'm going to be talking about cloud management. I know this is definitely an interesting topic after one, and I really want to thank Pius and Steven for their presentations, and we're going to definitely come back to them on a later slide. So why AWS isn't the big bad wolf? So why did I pick the name? So sometimes for me, it seems that when talking about the cloud, everything, everyone just gets immediately afraid because you look at cost savings, and when you open up AWS, you want to create your account. You see that little scary screen where it wants you to enter the credit card information, and you're thinking, wow, it's going to charge me everything. Well, you're definitely correct. Sometimes when you're thinking about AWS, it costs to think about AWS. So, yeah. So, a little bit about myself. I've been doing DevOps work for over 4 years now. I've started with the Google Cloud Platform, moved on to AWS. I haven't touched Azure at all, but I'm definitely sure you can use all of this stuff about cloud savings in multiple cloud environments because most of the services are built around the same. So it's microservices, Docker, everything. So yeah. So this is going to be the agenda. We're going to talk about AWS billing, region costs, EC2 and Fargate, stress environments, zombie resources, self-managing, summing up. And trust me, I'm not going to bore you with all the details. I'm going to keep it short, and it's not going to... It looks like magic at the moment, but trust me on that. It's going to get easier afterwards. So how does billing work in AWS? So you actually get billed for usage in AWS. Like I said, you think about AWS, you get billed. And in AWS, time is definitely money. So for example, EC2, you launch an EC2 instance, you get billed for the hours used. So when that instance is on a stop, you're not getting billed. Same with databases, RDS, you stop it, it's not getting used. You also get billed for data transfers. Take that ECR, your containers, they get transferred from service to service, you get billed. S3, you store data transfers cost. And you can also have licenses in AWS. AWS supports that as well. You can have, for example, OpenVPN licenses. So yeah, you definitely get billed for whatever you use. So that's why, like I said, whenever you join AWS, you enter a credit card information. You don't immediately get billed. You have to start using it. And AWS provides actually a lot of free services like VPC. You can play around. There are little EC2 hosts like T2 Micro, which you can play around. It's free for your university work as well. So keep that in mind. And the next thing I want to talk about, well, money in AWS. So keeping your bills in one place. So you know how you work in environments, you have Grafana dashboards, you have any other dashboard, and you have a little nice overview. Well, with billing, it's the same. You have to keep your bills in one place. So I like to keep the practice of having your bills in one place by linking your every single AWS account to a single billing account. Let me explain. You have 10, 5, 3 accounts. You set your one primary account as the billing one, and you link the other 2, 3, 4 to that main one account. So here you see we have this nice little overview here where obviously for data reasons I had to remove the account numbers, but the first one is, as you can see, January, February. This is the production account. Second one, staging account, stress account, so everything. And you can see the linked account total is 52,000 for this month, for this year. So yeah, this is where it's really crucial to keep, because sometimes it can happen. If you miss out on one of the accounts, it can just sit there. And if nobody logs in, nobody goes into billing. Maybe accountants don't go in as constant, because as you can see, we have smaller accounts like the one from the bottom, which costs roughly $500 a month. Yeah, definitely monthly costs. Well, 500 is not much, but look, if you can see, in 4 months, it's almost $4,000. So if that account is just left there, sitting there, it's just costing you money. So maybe something is just running there and you're not using it. So yeah, AWS, these are more of the graphs that AWS provides. So these are on the house from AWS, free, if so you might thought. So you can see it's predefined cost by service. So any service you use in AWS, you click on this graph, you see what the service costs to you, and it just graphs you per account because you linked all of those accounts in one place. And by linked account, running costs, and you can also create your own dashboards and stuff like that. And this really comes in helpful for a lot of people who might require, because you can export these as CSV files, XLSS. So accountants, everyone are going to be really grateful for you. So the next thing I want to talk about is AWS regions and costs and keeping stuff in the same region. I can't emphasize this enough. So AWS works this way. So you have regions in AWS, and I can't define you a certain amount, but every single region in the world has one. America's region, Europe region, Asian region, whatever regions you have. So, and some of them can be more expensive than the others. So for example, if you did some of the account in the European region, but I don't know, maybe you opened up your ECR, your Docker Container Registry in America, North Virginia region, that's going to be cross-region data transfer. So that's going to be transferring data from all over the world. And I can share you a little fun story. Everyone likes stories, right? All right, let's talk about a story. So I think it was maybe one of the days of the week. I think we had a deployment, and for some reason, cloud was set up in the way that our Docker registry was in the Northern Virginia region, and our ECS maybe was a dev environment. I can't tell right now. It was in Frankfurt. So we did the deployment in ECS. We forgot about it. Maybe it didn't work. Maybe we left home. Well, the next day we come back, and overnight it piled up to $3,000. Well, how? Single Docker image, if you don't love your Docker images, can weigh up to 500 megabytes. Well, imagine those 500 megabytes being downloaded every single minute overnight from all over the world. That's $3,000. So yeah, and if it was in the same region, the cost would have been, I don't know, just as an example, maybe $100. So that's just cross-region. And sometimes when you want to have, maybe you want to separate services. So you, maybe someone provided you a single AWS account, you really love any region, but you want to open two different stuff. You want to separate those services. And the better practice is going to be opening another AWS account, actually. It's not going to be open up and popping a different region. It's actually going to be opening another AWS account. And that way you can keep the stuff in the same region, and cross-account stuff is always cheaper than having stuff in multiple regions. So yeah. So the next stuff I want to talk about is going to be EC2 and Fargate. So it's a little more, simpler because everyone uses EC2, maybe. Everyone uses Fargate, because Steven talked about Fargate. So yeah, so like I said, on EC2 you get billed for usage. So you run your machine, you get billed for it, and Fargate takes the hard work of you, takes the hard work of developers, everyone, because it's an all-in-one system. You basically set up your machines and you forget about it. But if you really want to talk about cost, you have to look at EC2 as well, because if you can be flexible, you can set up EC2 in a way where it saves way more money than Fargate, because EC2 is flexible. You can have an on-demand instance, obviously. It's in the name, it's on demand. You click on the instance, you have it, but you pay premium for it. You pay what AWS wants you to pay. But there's also different ways. One of the ways is actually the spot market, and spot market is you switch the roles. You basically tell AWS what you're going to pay for that EC2 instance. And obviously, there's a lot of EC2 instances, a lot of machine types, little instances, bigger instances. So you basically tell AWS, hey, I'm going to pay for that. Well, if you're not happy about it, give me a smaller instance. So, and there's, so yeah, this is basically the SPY request. If you look here, this is constantly look. If you look at the created tag, maybe some of the instances got created 2 hours ago, but they were canceled because you lost the spot market because I told AWS, hey, I'm going to pay you a couple of cents for the hour used. And so they canceled it because it works in this way. Obviously, if you get outbid by someone else, AWS doesn't reserve you that instance. That's where on-demand falls for because you demand it. But in Spot, you basically lose that instance, it gets shut down. So, and it's a nice flexible way if you can keep your cloud redundant, if you can take a node loss. So that's definitely some of the architectural things. But if you want to save, you can definitely save. And we use this tool called Spotinst, and it's a really nice tool. They were a startup once. They basically automate the Spot stuff for you, and it's really simple to use, trust me. You basically log in, you run a few commands, so your AWS account gets tied to Spotinst. You basically click a few buttons. You don't even have to write. You have templates, but you click a few buttons, and Spotinst actually creates a cluster for you. And if you can look here, this is for the past 90 days, so 3 months. So the first one is prod account, so it automatically projected the potential costs if you were using on-demand instances, and it projected you the savings. So total saved in 90 days is $3,000. And this is the dev account on the bottom here, and you save $2,000 in the past 90 days just by having a spot market. So, and it's really simple because you have a lot of machine types. So you basically, you know, when you go in, you click all the boxes. That's what you do. You click all the boxes. You tell AWS, hey, I'm going to pay the bare minimum for it. Give me the boxes. And Spotinst automates that for you. So if you have your cloud flexible, if you have the cloud redundant, you can accept a few losses because you have auto scaling. So machines get scaled up automatically. So it's basically the same. So if you can keep your services separated in a few different machine types, then it definitely works for you. So the next thing I want to talk about is dev and stress environments. And these are really lovely because I'm going to be talking more about the stress environments actually, because sometimes when you have a bigger project, a bigger company, stress environments can be parallel to your production. So it costs basically the same, if not more. Sometimes, in a lot of cases, it can be a lot more. So a nice thing to do with stress environments is really looking on how you can save on those. And one of the nicer things is actually having the environment on a cold standby. And cold standby is basically, you have, like I said, it comes back to EC2 and everything. You get billed for usage. So if you have your environment on cold standby, everything is shut down, you don't get billed. So if you have really powerful machines there, just sitting there, you can just, over the weekend, you can leave, turn everything off, and you can automate it. You have Jenkins, you have all of these beautiful tools in AWS, and you can automate everything so everything shuts down. Whatever it takes, maybe on a Monday morning when someone comes in, QA developers, they need it, that can be up and running in 10 minutes, and bigger clouds, bigger projects can be up and running in 45 minutes. But I'm talking about huge environments with databases, EC2 hosts, everything. So yeah. And actually we have another fun story, yeah, what a shocker. So what ended up happening is that, you know, like I said, stress environments cost a lot. And the stress environment we had was really parallel to prod, but it was way beefier because sometimes you don't want to test on live clients, obviously. You want to test on your stress environment. So it was really beefy. and we had the cold standby set up. And someone forgot to shut down the cloud. So do you know what ended up after weekend? So a new car. So over the weekend, someone left on Friday, didn't shut down the machines, $35,000. So imagine explaining that to the client. Oh, sorry, we just burned $35,000. Obviously, you put it on Jira tickets. We did testing over the weekend. Yeah, you did. But everyone knows $35,000 was just lost. So yeah, so I really want to talk about stress environments because I see this a lot. So I know that a lot of you are really cost managing, cost efficient, but I know that there's a lot of projects, a lot of companies where they have dev environments, stress environments. They're just sitting there. So imagine this. So maybe it's used during work hours, so that's 9 to 5. Yeah, it's used from 9 to 5. What about nighttime? What about evening time? That's not being used. Yeah, maybe you have nightly builds, obviously nightly QA tests, but yeah, all of that time. So if you compile that over a month, that's half of the time these machines are not even using anything. They're just running. There. So yeah, I can't really emphasize this enough about having cold standbys in place and everything, really talking about your infrastructure. And that's where a lot of stuff like infrastructure as a code comes in handy because, yeah, if you have databases, obviously you can back up the data. You can turn off the databases, but with the machines, you can just with the flick of a finger, you can destroy everything. And then once you're ready, infrastructure as a code is there for you to cover. Everything is back up and running on a Monday. So yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is zombie resources and developers. And that's where Pius and Steven really come in handy. So they did their little presentations here. Yeah, they launched. Well, imagine if they launched a lot more stuff. Well, did you see them deleting something? No, they launched everything. We didn't see them delete anything. Well, imagine what's going on in the cloud right now. Money's ticking. Yeah, money's ticking, and money can be used anything. So I want to talk about zombie resources, and that's what they are. They're basically resources that are not even being used at all. They're just running there like zombies. They're just sitting there, waiting, idling. Maybe they're not even going to be used anytime soon or at all. So I want to show you this slide right here. So cloud cost before. This was before I joined one project, so it was $25,000 every single month. For smaller companies, that can be a lot. For bigger companies, that's not a lot. It's on debate here. But some of the accounts weren't even linked, like I told you, like previous slides, where you link the accounts. Some of the accounts weren't linked. That was costing an additional $5,000. So let's take it $30,000 a month. And yeah, when you look at monthly, 30,000 we can take the loss. But if you look at yearly costs, that's where the big costs come in. So it's $300,000 a month, well, a year. And after saving, that was just only looking at zombie resources, implementing spot market, and whole cloud works the same. Everything functions still the same. Everything works the same. And after savings, and look, if you look at the dates here, so that was for the month of April on top, because you got billed on May 3rd, so for that previous month. And then 3 months later, by the end of summer, no, just for July, at the end of July, it was already down by $20,000. Because like I said, above a few accounts weren't linked, it was $30,000, and you saved $20,000 every single month in 2 months just by implementing a little simple cloud saving tips. And what ended up happening is that you go into these, you basically log into those accounts. You look at the services because you have a nice little graph there. Like I showed you before, it was automatically generated by AWS. Cost by service. You look at the services. Maybe you're familiar with some of them. I wasn't familiar with some of them because guys were using AWS Kinesis, and that's basically like AWS's version of Kafka. So it's a messaging service. And that was costing $7,000 every single month. I just asked a few developers, hey, are you guys still using it? Because I was looking at logs and nobody was coming in or going at that Kinesis. And I was asking the guys around and they were like, Kinesis what? Kinesis who? What do you do it with? And I did some meetings, obviously, because you can't go in and turn off everything just like that because stuff can break. But, well, it still turns around. Nobody was using it. It was just there idling because powerful nodes were spun up and it was just there. Maybe someone did an experiment. Maybe someone did a cloud presentation, I don't know, some months earlier and left the Kinesis nodes there because they forgot. So yeah, that's what zombie resources are, and you can look a lot of different services. Maybe data transfers that you don't even need. So yeah, I can't emphasize on zombie resources. So yeah. Next thing I want to talk about is on-premise clusters versus the cloud. So why using the cloud can sometimes be more beneficial. So yeah, if you look at the pricing, it can be a little bit more expensive, but cloud really gives you the customization. It's really flexible, and you can be a one-man army on a project instead of having 5 people. So that's where I wanted. That's where I actually marked man hours. So how many guys does it take to manage an on-premise cloud, and how many guys do you think does it takes to manage an AWS cloud? So if you have maybe on-premise service, you have to file a Jira ticket, you have to get it approved, and maybe, I don't know, when someone feels like it, maybe 3 days later, you're gonna have your changes. You have gonna have increased machine types and all of that. Where in cloud, it's just having a Jira ticket and that's it. You go in and do the change. And ease of use, like I said, you can be a one-man army in the cloud because there are a lot of stuff. You can have infrastructure as a code. There is different stuff here. So yeah, I really want to talk about that. It's not always about the money. It is about the money for some of them, for managers and everyone, but yeah, it's not always about the money. So to sum up, I really want to tell you to keep your bills in the same place, because then you have a nice overview. Just like with your services, you have dashboards, so why not having bills? And there's always stuff that you can save on, always stuff that you can save on. Just when I was doing this presentation, I was going through the accounts. For some reason, I don't know why, I'll have to look into it, but the cloud costs increased by $1,000 for every single month. So instead of $8,000 that we were paying in January and February, we're now paying around $9,000. Where's that $1,000 increase? I'll have to look at it. So like I said, there's always stuff that you can save on. And zombies are everywhere. I can't emphasize this enough. I probably said emphasize like a million times right now, but it's okay because I can't emphasize on a lot of the stuff and it's really easy. So when you go into accounts, there are S3 buckets, there are RDS. Well, funny thing about RDS, that when you stop an RDS instance, it does get stopped for 7 days. After 7 days, it automatically turns on and you don't even know about it. Maybe you turned it off, but it automatically gets started. So yeah, that's where it's gonna be better to back up the data and destroy the RDS instance. So, and unutilized hardware. So this is more of a debate reason, but sometimes when we have meetings and on a lot of startups maybe, people are afraid that stuff is going to crash when more load comes in. So they just beef up the instances so they can just be sitting there costing a lot. And when you look at usage during the past 7 days, CPU utilization maybe was 7%, memory utilization was, I don't know, maybe 2%, but everyone is happy. Well, no. Actually, when you have instances that are using 90% of CPU, 80%, 90% of memory, they're being utilized. They're basically machines, they're working, they're doing everything. So, and if you're afraid of, I don't know, spikes in load, then obviously you have to look at auto-scaling. And auto-scaling is what that is. You have smaller machines, but on load, it scales everything up. And then with zero load, it scales everything back down to a bare minimum, so everything just works. So yeah, that was my presentation.
Thank you, Denis. Thank you for sharing your real life stories and the ways we can save money just by looking after our infrastructure around our environment. And audience, thank you for actively asking questions. We have some for Denis as well. Let's start from one about the transferring costs. So does transferring data between, example, EU West 1 and EU Central 1 cost money? If it does, is it cheaper than US to EU?
Yes, it's definitely cheaper because you have the same European region and it doesn't have to travel all across the world.
Yeah, and the rules are that you pay based on the origin price. So if US is costs X amount, then transferring from US to EU, you pay that price. And if you transferring differently, so from EU to US, you pay the EU price. And transfers inside the region are free. So as Dennis said, better transferring inside the region than between the regions, despite whether the US to EU or EU to EU. And then the next one is there DevOps scripts that are public and can be used to shut down dev environments?
It all depends on how you want to do it. We did it with Circle CI, we did it with Jenkins, basically writing our own stuff, basically calling AWS when you have Terraform, everything set up. It all depends on the flexibility because there's a lot of ways to go there, but if you're familiar with CloudFormation, you do it with CloudFormation. Maybe you're familiar with little bash code and simple AWS calls like you do AWS S3 destroy. Yeah, you can use that. So it all depends. It's all flexible. I don't know. Maybe there's an all-in-one tool. I know that there's a great tool called AWS Nuke. So once an account comes redundant, you basically download the tool and you nuke the account. It goes in and it deletes everything, so you don't have to go and click everything by hand.
Yeah, going through all the regions, making sure that you haven't left anything there. It's a painful activity, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one question. Are there ways to prevent the unexpected cost by maybe shutting down services when amount of dollars is reached automatically?
Yeah, because in AWS, you basically set your budgets and you can set the budgets per service. So yeah, it's really simple. So you set the budget for an X amount. At first, AWS sends you a little warning, hey, you're reaching your amount. But afterwards, it basically just shuts down the service because it wants to save you money.
Okay, so that's even better than I remember on Firebase. They just send you warning and keep burning your wallet.
Yeah, like I said, when you think about AWS, it costs to think about AWS. Yeah, they're really happy about their money.